Last time on A Soldier's Life, we got some more dick jokes and a good old tavern brawl. Eric starts to question who Firth actually is and decides to ask Constantine when he sees him, but he's currently nowhere to be found. Eric gets told to hurry the fuck up to the estate to secure his own private room. He gets there first and gets the old maid's room, which is full of perfume smell and women's clothing. At dinner, Castile says that she won the dungeon race and then gives Eric a side mission to go with another company and help them with exploring the magical storm. Durandus, the mage leader of the company, is an asshole who only cares about himself. The storm was caused by a storm giant that the company attacks. Almost everyone dies, and Durandus couldn't give less fucks. When the giant is dealt with, the mage takes all the essences for himself, even essences from the slain soldiers. Chapter 31 Aftermath. The mood was somber as we grabbed our packs from up on the muddy ridge. Mage Durandus searched the storm giant and the area where it had been focusing its digging efforts. The stormy sky slowly cleared, and the sun sporadically peeked through the clouds. The men left back at the road would know we had succeeded when the storm clouds disappeared. Exhausted from the fight, it took considerable effort to climb the muddy slope multiple times to retrieve all the packs. As Durandus recovered his ether, he healed himself and the most severely wounded men. After setting up camp, the grisly job of digging graves began. Durandus instructed us to bury them on the far side of the crater, well away from the dig site. The soft, muddy ground made it feasible with our inadequate tools. We fashioned crude shovels from the destroyed shields and spears. The dead men were stripped of their legionnaire gear, placed in shallow graves, and then covered. As night fell unexpectedly early due to our location in a massive hole, the 10 of us were exhausted. Durandus continued studying the dig site well into the night and acted irritated when disturbed. I didn't even bother setting up my tarp tent. I just laid out my oiled cloak and bedroll, and others did the same. The night watch was a single person at a time, each taking a 1-hour shift. I was even woken for my turn. Not that you could see anything except for Durandus, illuminated by glowstones mounted on spears driven into ground at the dig site. The morning came and my hip and thigh throbbed. The rocky slide had torn up my canvas pants, and the damaged flesh was probably infected. As the camp stirred, a legionnaire noticed and said, "Have Durandus heal that. His ether should have recovered by now." I nodded and took out a meal bar, unwrapping it and nibbling on the cracker outside. Hunger overwhelmed me, and I quickly consumed the bar, washing the dry hardtack down with an entire canteen of water. It was one of the best meals I had ever eaten, but I knew it was just my body telling me I was starving for calories. After the meal, I limped over to the mage and asked him, "Mage Durandus, can you heal my leg? I think it's infected." I waited patiently while he continued to stare at the ground. Finally, he spoke with some excitement, but he didn't look at me. "There is an entire city buried under the swamp. A city built for giants." "No way. What?" He knelt in the mud, pressed his hand to the earth, and whispered to himself. What was it searching for? I asked again. "Can you help with my leg? I think it's infected." He looked up, irritated by the interruption. He placed his hand on my thigh and I felt a familiar sensation of etheric healing. I focused on it as warmth spread and dirt and tiny stones were expelled from the wound. I thought I had cleaned the wound well, but I was clearly wrong, indicated by the amount of debris pushing through my skin. Oh, it's so disgusting. Next time, I would save a potion for myself. When he finished, he returned to studying the ground with whatever magic he was using. I returned to the others, who were setting up their tents and sorting through all the gear our deceased comrades left behind. laying out weapons, personal items, and bulky gear in 3 piles. The 2 men looked up, their faces black with dirt. My own face probably didn't look much better. One man said, "Besides the coin purses, you can take what you want. We will get the coin to their families through the Legion Hall." I retrieved the spear I had brought with me. I had dropped my spear when I was thrown back when the in front of me archer exploded. That happened. I selected a second spear, the best one of the bunch the others had stacked together. As I selected the spear, the other man commented, "You did well. We would all be dead if not for your actions yesterday." Yeah, missing arrows. I'm glad someone thinks so. I glanced quickly at the mage to indicate who I was talking about. A grunt of agreement, then he said, "We've never experienced a defeat like this before." I would not contradict him by arguing that it was a victory since the giant was slain. It certainly felt like we had lost. We have sustained heavy injuries before, but the Randus usually heals us right after the fighting. The other man added, "And he has never been injured that badly in battle." He picked up some small black bags from a pile. He whispered to me, "Want some glowstones? If you pawn them, they are worth about a gold apiece, and we won't take them all." I still had the one from Leonidas, but I bent down and scooped up 7. The stones were the size of a small chicken egg and about 4 ounces each. He smirked and nodded as I brought them to my pack. I felt like he was offering me a reward for my efforts in the fighting. 2 pounds of glowstones was a fair amount of weight, so they would be added to my dimensional storage later. I returned and sat with them. "Do you think we will be heading back tomorrow?" someone asked another man. I was happy that they were talking around me. Surviving the near-death experience had brought me into their trusted circle. "Probably. He might have spells to see deep into that muddy earth, but he doesn't have a single one to dig," his fellow said, with some malice directed at the mage. I asked, "Does he always loot the legionnaires for essence when they die?" They looked at each other and then back at me. One shook his head. "No. Well, usually. A dozen monster corpses keep him busy, and we rarely lose anyone. I have been with him for almost 4 years. Although we rotate the men in our company, I think only 9, he paused, thinking. No, 10 have died in all that time. Well, that's crazy. Now, wasn't it like 30 people who fucking died? Most of our missions are escorting some baron or baroness between cities. Oh, well, that's not super deadly. We typically just see a wandering monster or a few bandits. I nodded. I'm filthy. I'm going to bathe in the swamp. No. I laughed at the absurdity of it, going into murky water to get clean. Can you come and guard me for a short while? Can you come and look at me while I bathe? Both men struggled to their feet, and a few men joined us. We stripped and bathed in pairs, while the 5 others remained on watch. 5 cucks. Four men remained to watch over the engrossed mage. The filth was real, and even bathing in murky water, I was thrilled to get cleaner. I pulled some things out of my hair that I cared not to identify and just flung them away. I thought about taking one of the dead man's pants, or even pulling one from my storage. We had only stripped the bodies of armor and possessions, not clothes. We buried them with their clothes. The man I washed with tried to start a conversation. Not now. This water is not bad. I remember passing a swamp as a child with leeches as big as my fist. Oh, good conversation. I noticed one of the black-bottom feeding fish scurrying away from my feet, and I swore and kicked at it. No, Stumbling back, my foot caught on a root, and I fell in. The man laughed, but I did not appreciate his humor. He was one of the archers I saved with a healing potion. He continued to talk and obviously trying to make me uncomfortable. You know, Now that the storm and lightning have cleared, I bet the giant frogs will return with the other predators. Your company killed a big snake? Wonder if there are any more in the swamp? I played this game and acted nonchalantly. Yeah, took all 20 of us to bring it down, and it swallowed 2 men during the fight. They barely survived. With any fewer men, and without our mage, they would have drowned in the snake's guts. It worked. He suddenly became more observant of the surrounding water. I finished cleaning as best I could and returned to my tent, pulling all 8 of the glowstones into my dimensional space. I just love how Eric just doesn't take shit. Like, of course he does, like, from a soldier's standpoint, but when it comes to the other soldiers, he's like, no, fuck you too. I was not going to carry the extra 2 pounds out of the swamp. Around midday, with nothing left to do, I milled about the piles of equipment since everyone had now picked it over. Each of the dead men had their prized possessions withheld down to a small sack for their families. At least I would not have to help carry them out. At least I didn't think I would have to. I probably would if asked, but it felt too much like robbing the dead to me. This was not a fantasy game where one looted people. Still, I searched for something more desirable to eat. I had 1 bag of trail mix left and the ration bars. 1 canteen smelled like wine, but I was not in the mood. I found some wrapped sausage, which I munched on while I ate. I also found the heavy metal fishing line with the hook the soldier used and pocketed it. The soldiers had packed light, so there was not much of interest. I added a small sewing kit, just a wallet of needles and heavy thread, a small jar of horse rub for chafing, and a small, wonderfully crafted wooden flute wrapped in an oiled cloth. A flute! I couldn't play a lick, but maybe I would find the time, and it was a beautiful instrument. It would have been a shame to leave the flute behind in the elements. He took a flute! So cute! As I returned to my tent to rest, the mage finally broke his gaze and returned to our camp. He seemed to be seeing it for the first time. His daze broken. He was completely healed and only looked slightly pale from lack of sleep and other usage. We will be returning in an hour. You can pack everything up. He looked over at the pile of gear I was standing at. Take what you can carry. With those words, he went to his larger tent, which had been set up by the men, and started to eat his own rations. He seemed deep in thought about whatever he had found and ignored everyone as we picked up the camp. An hour later, Durandus packed up his tent and carried his backpack out of the swamp. The rest of the men were too burdened with gear to help him. We were going to have to stay the night on one of the small islands. The mage was distracted as we made our way through, and twice the men in the lead fell into deep waters. Both times, Durandus had to save them with his magic from drowning with their heavy packs. When the sun set, Durandus chose an island, and we set up camp. As we did so, one of the giant frogs found us. A man had been defecating on the island's far side, and the frog grabbed him and pulled him in and under with its rope-like tongue. Not while he's shitting! Durandus scrambled from his position, but the frog was already in deep waters with his prize. Durandus fumed. You are all getting sloppy! In dangerous terrain, it is 3 men together, at all times. He continued yelling at the legionnaires, but they were numb to the verbal assault. When he was done with his tirade, they returned to camp duties, mourning the loss of their companion in silence. I mean, here Durandus isn't wrong. He's like, bro, there are fucking giant enemy frogs. You can't go shitting by yourself. I realized the man taken was the one I had bathed with in the swamp water. Of course it was. Well, he was right about one thing. The predators of the swamp were returning to their territory now that the storm had been dispersed. Chapter 32. Swamp Things. Swamp Things? Like Shrek things? The loss of another legionnaire weighed heavily on the company. The remaining men were splitting the night watch, and we all huddled our tents toward the center of the island. I agreed to participate in the second watch without hesitation and was to share it with 4 other men. The air remained humid, but the temperature had significantly dropped. Mage Durandus had only dried himself before going to sleep, informing the men that he was still recovering from using his ether to heal them. We would have to sleep in wet clothes tonight. I slept heavily, even while soaking wet. I was roused in the middle of the night, feeling the previous day's aches. Durandus had only healed the skin and cleared the infection on my leg. My muscles were still sore. Since there was a chill, I wrapped my bedroll around me while I went to serve on watch. The watch was explained to me in a whisper. We will each cover an arc of a quarter of the island's shore. A quarter, not a quarter. Your arc is here. He pointed out in the moonlight. The water is still and the moonlight is strong. Focus on the shoreline and look for ripples in the water. Why did this sound like a a wise mage or someone like giving you a hint in like a video game? Like, the water is still and the moonlight is strong. Now go. I liked it. Focus on the shoreline and look for ripples in the water. If you see anything, just tap me and point it out. I will decide if the alarm needs to be raised. And who are you? We positioned ourselves on a rotting log on one side of the camp. The other 3 men took the other side. About 15 minutes later, my partner whispered, "Eric, right?" I nodded in the moonlight. "I'm Brutus." Brutus? Hell yeah. "Nice to meet you, Brutus," I whispered back. "How long have you been with Durandus?" "About 2 years," he whispered, then fell silent for a while. "I always thought having a company mage with healing abilities would be good. It didn't help that the giant was splattering us with one swing." I recalled that Brutus was the lone survivor of the spearmen, having received a massive blow to his skull and been figuratively revived after the fight. "We should just be happy we survived," I whispered back. 2 loud clicks from the other side of the camp made Brutus turn his head quickly. "Hold up a minute. That's a signal for a possible attack." He remained still, and we both listened intently. After 5 minutes, a single click came, and he relaxed. "It happens 2 or 3 times during the night. We have a strong moon tonight, but the dark still plays tricks on the eyes." I looked up at the moon and studied it. Unlike the moon I was accustomed to, this moon was twice the size and had a deep blue coloring, perhaps covered in water, given its glossy look. "You shouldn't stare at it," Brutus said. "It will ruin your night sight for a few minutes." "Is the moon covered in water?" I asked. I looked towards him instantly, noting that as Brutus said my night sight was ruined, and I barely perceived the outline of the Legionnaire. "I think so." "Oh, really?" "It's called Neptune's Tear. Neptune controls the tides and storms," he explained. Then he tensed, pulling out a dagger. "Quiet!" he rasped, focusing intently. Despite my limited perception, the moon's reflection made it easy to see. Ripples in the water on the shore. He stood and produced his glowstone bag. I pulled one from my dimensional space. I had charged all of them. Aren't they gonna click to the other guys? He moved to the right. "If I see something, I'll throw the glowstone at it so we can fight with more light." "I am ready," I whispered back. Brutus tapped twice on his spear with his dagger, signaling the others on the watch for a possible enemy. Okay, there we go. I gripped my own spear tightly, scanning for any movement under the eerie, blue-gray light. An uneasy feeling rose in me. "Do you smell that?" I questioned. "Yes." He tapped twice more on his spear. "The smell is getting stronger." I inhaled deeply, the stench of the swamp intensifying. "It might be the giant tortoise again, stirring up the swamp waters nearby," Brutus said, hopefully. "Should we wake everyone?" I asked, trying to spot anything. Brutus started to say yes. Then the alarm went up on the other side of the camp, metal banging together. "Go help them. I'll watch this side of the island so we don't get attacked from behind." I hesitated for a moment, before running through the camp to the other sentry position. The tents stirred as I passed them. I heard a scream of pain from where I was running to. "It's got me! Cut it!" I hurried, thinking it was a giant frog tongue pulling a man to a watery grave again. I took my glowstone and threw it toward the screams for help. What I saw did not make sense to my eyes. Okay, what the fuck is this then? A mound of vegetation had wrapped wrist-thick vines around a man's leg and was pulling him toward itself. He had lost his bow and was stabbing the vines with a dagger. To my left, the other pair of sentries was hacking away with short swords at a similar mound of plant mass. The swamp thing was attacking us like in a bad horror movie. I ran and stabbed the body of the one pulling the archer in. He screamed at me, "Cut the fucking vines!" He was only a few feet from the body of the monster. The tents were lit with glowstones, and other men would be here soon to help. I started hacking at the vines pulling him, but it did not break them. His foot reached the mound, and the vegetation moved aside for his foot to be pulled inside. Glowstones were tossed around the fight, and 2 men appeared next to me, beginning to hack the vines with swords. Chunks of gooey plant parts started flying off the creature from the assault. We were making progress. A vine lashed out from the creature and slammed down into a swordsman's shoulder with an audible crack. His knees buckled, and he dropped his short sword, struggling to pull a dagger from his other arm. Finally, Mage Durandus arrived and moved to cast a spell at our creature. A lightning bolt flared in front of me, blinding me and forcing me to back a step with a minor clap of thunder. Not fucking lightning with water! "No lightning!" called a soldier in the other fight. "It's a shambler. Lightning only heals it." Okay, well, that would be the... Durandus, are you fucking dumb? Like, do you know anything? Oh my god, this guy. I was blinded but heard the mage swear. "Damn it, shambling mounts. Should have known. Should have known." I stepped away as I tried to regain my sight by blinking rapidly and listening to the struggle. The loudest sound was the scream of the archer being pulled in, and beneath it, the sound of his bones breaking. I blinked my sight back to see the man inside the mound, his body crushed in the mass. His screams mercifully ended when a vine forced its way into his mouth, filling his throat. Oh, okay, now we're into the tentacle stuff. I could see frost forming on the ground as the mage began to freeze the creature, like he had done with the storm giant. The creature tried to lash out at the remaining swordsman. The archer's life now ended inside its body. Brutus yelled from the other side of the clearing, "Got another one over here!" With my spear ineffectual, I grabbed the short sword from the legionnaire who had dropped his when the vine whip broke his shoulder. The mage had frozen the creature and was out of range, so I rushed to help Brutus. On the other side of the camp, the creature was dripping with swamp water as it moved onto land. Brutus, luminescent marble, cast a shadow on the ground, making it look even more menacing. Brutus was backing up toward the camp, not engaging. He looked at me. "How is it on the other side?" I stated. "Mage Durandus has one captured in ice, and the others are hacking the third one." "I don't know much about these things," he admitted. "Our scout was the one who knew lightning healed them. What do you say we keep backing up until we reach the others for help?" "That sounds like a bloody brilliant plan," I remarked at the smartest thing I had heard in a while. Another man was grappled and pulled inside one of the creatures. They couldn't kill it fast enough, and the mage was occupied freezing the other one. His panicked cries and screams ended in less than a minute. We backed up halfway to the others when the fighting started to die down. A call that it was dead reached us. Then Mage Durandus yelled that his creature was contained and commanded everyone to finish off the one in camp. Mage Durandus came to our aid first, and the ground frosted over as he built his spell. We all surrounded the creature and waited for the vine-like limbs to freeze before hacking them off. I joined in, and soon the mound was nothing but a big pile of green vines and sap. We were all sweaty and covered in the sticky goo. Another victory in defeat. 2 men lost to gruesome deaths. The scout said, "The frozen one is still alive. We should hack it to pieces. Durandus countered the suggestion. No, it's more likely to give an essence if it is alive. He took out his plate-sized essence collector and placed it over the pile of goo and vines. It flared for a moment, but nothing formed. He frowned. He moved to the other mound, and our group of 7 moved with him. This hacked mound also gave nothing but a flash. Damn it, it should have given something, Durandus said angrily. I figured because the soldier was trapped in the remains, he thought either the shambling mound or the dead soldier would have yielded something. His last hope was a living mound, frozen in place with the body trapped inside. The scout advised, Durandus, we should just hack it to pieces before you attempt your harvest. He waved him aside. It is contained. If the ice casing cracks, you all can move in and slash it to death. We all moved in closer. I was facing the trapped man, whose face was twisted in pain and agony with a vine shoved into his throat. That could have been me. Is he saying that like, oh, I could have got a vine shoved down my throat? That could have been me. It's not fair. Durandus held the disc out and began the process. Apparently, it took longer on living creatures because it was still glowing after a few seconds. The mage's face was expectant and smiling. That was when the ice coating shattered, and a heavy vine instantly slammed into his body and threw him out into the swamp. Well, bye! A heartbeat later, we were hacking away at the not-so-frozen creature. The scout yelled, Brutus, go get the mage. Eric, use a potion on him. Go! I didn't tell him all I had were 10 cure poison and 2 stamina potions remaining. I followed after Brutus into the waist-deep water. I hoped there were no more of those creatures. I still had my dimensional trick at least. How far did he fly? I asked. Don't know. Space out about 10 feet and we'll walk away to look. Walk slow and stay alert. I took out another glowstone and held it high as we waded through the swamp. We were almost 30 feet from shore, leaving behind the safety of being in a group. My anxiety grew, and a silvery reflection a few feet away startled me. It was the essence collector. I oriented my dimensional space to the area and moved it into my space. A minute later, and almost 70 feet from shore, we found Mage Durandus floating face down. Oh. Brutus hesitated, then waded toward him and flipped him over. He's dead. Must have been knocked unconscious and drowned. Terrible fate for a water mage, to drown. I don't feel sorry. He did not sound too disappointed. Yeah, I thought the mage's death was karmic. It's like, yeah, I mean, I didn't wish just like, oh, I hope he dies, but it's like, whatever. I'm not saying he deserved it, because no one deserves death, but he had it coming. Chapter 33. Loot Collector. Watery blood filled Durandus' mouth as he floated between us. Do we bring him to shore? I asked Brutus. Nah, we're gonna leave him. Brutus considered and searched him. He found the mage's pouch with essences he had accumulated and a small coin pouch. He pondered for a long moment before saying, Shit. The truth seekers would pry the theft out of us if we took anything. Let's bring him to shore and see what Flavius wants to do. We floated the body to shore, and men came and helped us dragging up to the small island center. They had already buried their companions' 2 bodies in the island's soft soil. Flavius, the archer-trained scout, now commanding the remaining men, looked at the body and rasped angrily. Greedy bastard. It finally bit him in the ass. He looked up and addressed everyone. Okay, we're going to haul the body back to the road. He picked up the mage's pouches. The essences will be divided among us, and the coin will be sent to the estate. Did you find the collector? He asked me and Brutus. Brutus answered, No, could have gone anywhere. Yes, it's mine, it's mine. Eric was holding the glowstone aloft the entire time we searched, and we didn't see anything. I kept a straight face, and Flavius grunted. Okay, we'll search for the collector in the morning. If we don't find it by midday, we'll head to the road, Flavius announced. He pulled a string on the essence sack. Since essences collected on campaigns are administered at the discretion of the commanding officer in the Legion, I will be handing these out. There was a chorus of affirmations as the 7 of us circled around him. Flavius took his cloak and placed it on the ground, then dumped the marble-like essences onto the cloak. There were 37 smaller marble-sized essences, 3 golf ball-sized essences, and 7 more in between those sizes. For those of you who have never consumed an essence before, the small ones are minor essences. These marble-sized ones are major essences, and the 3 large balls are apex essences. Each one is 10 times more valuable than the prior. Now these, he took the 3 apex essences, are required to be turned into the Empire. He moved them back into the pouch. Someone asked why, and Flavius replied, "First citizen privilege. They buy them all to use amongst themselves. You don't want a truth seeker asking you if you consumed one. Although working for Durandus these last few months, the laws seem rather loose." I was like, but I ate one. There were murmurs of agreement among everyone. He had taken the apex essences of the storm giant and consumed it right away, and that must have been his pattern in the past. Right? Wasn't Eric given an apex essence? Maybe he wasn't. Maybe it was just a greater essence or something. Like a big one. I feel like it was a big one. Now the question is, most of these minor essences are from our comrades. Do we want to consume them or return them to their families? Flavius asked us. An argument ensued. 2 men really wanted to consume them, and 2 wanted to return them to their families. Not that we could tell which essence belonged to whom. In the end, we added 1 minor essence to each bag of personal possessions, leaving 9 small essences and 7 medium essences. Flavius continued. The color of the essence determines which aspect of self it is related to. The darker colors are all physical traits. The lighter colors are the mental aspects. Flavius went through the colors from memory. Oh, here we go. Strength, dark purple. Power, dark orange. Quickness, dark green. Dexterity, dark yellow. Endurance, dark blue. Constitution, dark red. Coordination, dark pink. Everyone is dark. Intellect, light purple. Well, shouldn't have said anything. Reasoning, light orange. Perception, light green. Insight, light yellow. Resilience, light blue. Empathy, light pink. Fortitude, light red. Of the 9 small essences, 4 were strength, 2 constitution, and 3 were power. The 7 larger, major essences were 5 strength, 1 empathy, and 1 coordination. Curious, I asked, what about magic-related statistics? Flavius thought for a moment, then spoke. I think other essences are a milky pearl-like. Channeling I have seen before. They are glossy black. The others... He focused and shook his head. I read it too long ago to remember. I just remember one was clear like glass. What was the one Durandus consumed from the storm giant? Another legionnaire asked. Probably the common lightning affinity. I did not see it. All the magic affinities have some glow and animation to them. These physical and mental, he indicated the ones on the cloak, only glow softly in the dark. Everyone looked anxious. Flavius said, "We will pull ships for the order of selection. One's for the lesser and one's for the major. The 2 extra lesser will be determined by the lowest 2 ships on the 3rd pull." That's nice. The ships ended up being a deck of cards from a pack with Roman numerals on them. 1 through 7 was pulled. I pulled 6 for the lesser essence. On my turn, I took the dark orange essence for power. The next draw was the lowest number. I got 1, but it did not matter. Only strength essences remained, so I took 1. The final draw was the major essence, and this was the big one. I wanted the pink coordination essence, but I drew the number 5. Brutus got a 2 on the draw, and when his turn came, I offered, "Brutus, I'll trade my 2 minor essences and my 5th selection for your turn." Everyone listened as Brutus asked, "Which one are you planning to select?" With all eyes on me, I said, "The pink coordination. Flavius' eyes betrayed him, and he had also planned to select that. I did not get a read on the others. Brutus nodded slowly and handed me his card, and I gave him my card and the 2 essences. I selected the pink essence and I put it into my mouth immediately. As no one can steal this is mine. As it dissolved, it had a salty taste to it. But it may have just been the dried sweat from the hands of the people handling it. Oh no! Fuck. The familiar cold, tingly light washed through my body. Others started putting their own essences into their mouths, and I almost warned them about taking multiple ones. I think some people planned to sell them, or maybe they worried about consuming the essence of a fallen comrade. When the selection ended, Flavius announced, "It is a half-day trip to the road. It's going to be much more difficult without the Randos to guide us. Get 6 hours of rest, and then we will pack quickly and search for the collector in the light. Eric and Brutus, you are on watch for the first 2 hours." I was about to say something, but then remembered that while everyone had been fighting, we had been backpedaling and drawing the 3rd shambling mound toward the others. We did the least amount of fighting of everyone here. As I stood in the morning's light, standing back to back with Brutus, I asked, "Are essences important? Are they the soul of the being you take them from?" "Some people think so," Brutus answered. "The orcs in the west and the Bhutan Caliphate, for one. They consider it a great honor if they have the chance to consume the essence of their conquered enemy. The teachings of the Talian Empire are that a person's essence is sacred. If harvested, the essence belongs to their offspring or other kin. A farewell, so to speak. Yeah, if you're not talking about Durandas, then who just sips, fucking takes, and is like, mine. Only criminals that are sentenced to death and enemies of the Empire will have their essences taken away." Wow. A few men started snoring, and larger insects moved to feast on the corpses of the monsters. I asked, "Then why was everyone so upset when Durandus harvested the bodies of the men?" "Durandus would have sold them," Brutus said steely. "In the Empire, it is also not common practice to harvest your own men, even in times of war. Outside of Legion mages and mages of the college, only the Temple of Minerva has priests with collectors within the Empire." "How do Legion mages get away with harvesting people and consuming apex essences?" I asked, listening keenly as I tried to understand. "The mages of the Legion and the Mage College are the true power of the Empire. Anyone that can learn true spellcasting is revered," Brutus said, surprised. "How is it in your home country?" I panicked because I didn't know how they treated mages in the Duchy of Singia. I could only find the country on a map and knew they exported lumber. I had not told anyone in this company where I was from, so maybe I could just make something up. "The same. The mages are a class above the common folk in Singia." "Singia? You're a long way from home. What brought you up here? There are a lot of foreign men in the army, but they are uncommon in the Legion ranks." I could hear the curiosity in his voice. Oh, fuck. "Bad luck. How about you? Why are you in the Legion?" I tried to focus the conversation on him. "Me?" He laughed. "I am the bastard son of a baron who owns nothing but barley and hops fields. I was taught to fight, and rather than join the baron's guard, I joined the Legion. It pays better, and I'll get my pension after 20 years. "Pension?" I asked, turning to face him. "Yes. You continue to draw your weekly salary biannually. Did you not know? Are you a conscript then? I think you are still eligible. When I retire, I will find a wife and raise Hygyrosian goats." He smacked his lips. "Their milk makes the most divine cheese." Cheese! I told him the truth. I was railroaded into a guilty verdict and forced to join or work as a laborer. "Railroaded?" Brutus asked, unfamiliar with the term. I huffed. "It means I was given no other viable choice." "Eric, my friend, that describes most of the army and half the Legion," he laughed. "So you must have trained at the Western Legion camp then if you were conscripted." "I guess. No one told me what the camp was, and I was too focused on not getting sent to the army. How many camps are there to train legionnaires? Just 2. The western camps and the camp in the capital for the volunteers, Brutus informed me. We were silent until we were relieved from duty by the 2 other men. I packed up my things rather than get 4 hours of sleep in the hot, sticky weather. The sun was out today, and it was going to be a miserable walk through the swamp to the road. The others, who had not been on watch, wrapped the mage tightly with their personal possessions. They made small floats from empty canteens to tie to the body. I retrieved some glowstones that were abandoned due to their weight, to bring the total in my dimensional space to 11. Flavius asked if I could take some of the dead men's personal possessions into my space, since they were small but heavy bags, and I agreed. Flavius declared the sun was high enough to search for the essence collector, and we walked the grid pattern with everyone in the area where the body was found. I asked Flavius, "Why is this so important? Doesn't the Empire have dozens of these things?" Flavius clucked, irritated. That was not a normal collector. It was a dungeon-created one. Smaller, lighter, and supposedly more efficient than most. Like all dungeon artifacts, its value is hard to measure. It was Duranda's most prized possession. His brother is going to want it back. I looked questioningly at him, and he clarified the misunderstanding. Duranda's brother is a mage in charge of another company. I only met him once, and he was the foulest temper. Oh wow! While Duranda's was self-serving, he was not cruel. His brother is. Ooh, what a fun character. Can't wait to meet him. We searched until midday, like Flavius promised. Then we marked the island in the direction in which the body was found in case someone wanted to try their luck in the future. Flavius thought the Legion might send a mage to search, or Duranda's brother would come himself. We moved in a diamond formation through the swamp, floating the body in the center, with 3 men ready to respond in any direction. It was a painfully slow process. We were weighed down with too much gear to swim, so we had to find paths no deeper than the chest. Even with the man in the lead having a spear to check the depth, he sometimes stumbled and fell into deep water. It was a rush to save him from drowning every time. After the first incident, we tied a 10-foot rope to the lead man to help with the rescue. I was lucky, as I was never asked to be the lead man in the formation. Fortunately, we only encountered 1 giant frog, and that was when we were resting on an island. A man was grabbed but resisted being pulled inside the maw of the frog. We swarmed the frog and slew it. Slew it. I've never heard slew it. Slayed it. I twitched slightly. I now had an essence collector and could have used it on the frog, but based on the collector's noted value, I decided to keep my possession of its secret. Yeah, why it would have been insane if he just whipped it out, like, let me get some essences, and everyone would be like, what the fuck, bro? I can imagine. Oh, the sun was already setting when we reached the road, and our wet and sore bodies collapsed into the rocky dirt. It had taken much longer than we thought it would, and we all had twice as much gear as when we started. Flavius said we had arrived, but had come out on the road too far south. We didn't rest long before Flavius had us moving north toward a comfortable bed. A half-mile later, we approached an area of charred bodies in the dark. They were all frogs, and this was where we had left the men to guard the discarded gear. The gear and the men that Duranda's left behind were not there. They must have returned to Marcha, Flavius announced. A bath and bed are closed, men. Just a few more hours. Our spirits rose even though we knew we still had miles to go. Chapter 34. Spa Day. Spa Day! With the boys! Our soaked, filth-covered bodies walked down the road. 4 men carried the mage in a litter made from 2 spears. We rotated carrying him as night set in, and the watery blue moon bathed us in its light. Every man had a glowstone ready to be released, to illuminate a foe if one showed itself. Flavius had us moving quickly, and the city walls came into view after a time. Relief flooded my body at the sight. I had turned over a lot of thoughts in my mind on the trek back. Should I have revealed myself to kill the storm giant with my dimensional space? Men would have lived, and Durandus would probably still be alive. The horror of the speed at which the storm giant killed almost 20 shield and spearmen flashed through my mind. Experienced men. No, I have most likely died if I tried to get close. The storm giant was 25 feet tall. I could not have displaced enough of his body to win the fight in a single blow. We reached the gate, breaking my thoughts, and Flavius yelled up to the tower. Durandus' company is returning. Gates are not open for anyone until first light. Order of the general. Oh, fuck you, dickhead, came a return shout. Flavius swore. Dragon's breath. 7 men with the body of a mage. Open the gates or I will rip them off their hinges and beat you senseless with it. Hell yeah, fucking get him, Flavius. There was movement in the tower, and then a different soldier weakly said, They went to wake the general. Just a few moments, Legionnaire. It was close to 15 minutes before the gatehouse door swung open, and a man strode out half-dressed. Oh, please. What is this? Durandus is dead? His voice was coated with disbelief, anger, and worry. Flavius said, I will report to the Legion command. May we enter, General? It was not a question. We walked through the gate. The general swore and cursed his men for not letting us in right away, but it appeared to be more of an act to appease us. It was a long walk to the villa and inner orchard, on the other side of the city. As I passed the upper city baths, I checked to see if they were open. The door was not locked, but there was no one around. I helped myself to soap and a scrubber as I went into the shower and scrubbed the filth off. The water, heading to the drain, remained murky with dirt for long periods. I located dozens of bug bites I never remember receiving. Whenever I thought I was clean, I would find another patch of crevice of dirt. My hair was terrible, a greasy, dirty mess that had gotten too long. The members of Durandus' Legion had all been clean-shaven when we started. I was the misfit with a poorly trimmed beard. I had seen numerous barbers, so maybe I could do that in the morning. Finally, sure I was clean, I moved to the baths. They were not heated, having cooled to a lukewarm temperature overnight. I relaxed into the water, not caring, and promptly fell asleep. Oh, not in the water. I was awakened by a trio of young women whispering and staring at me. I remembered that they were the group of women that had taken my clothes and washed them the last time. My clothes can be burned, I said, but my armor needs washing. I placed 7 silver coins on the lip of the large communal tub. Turn the heat on for the water, wash my armor, and get me a new set of clothes. Do a good job, and there's a silver tip for each of you. What the fuck? Dude, fuck you, asshole. Commanding. One of the braver women came forward and took the silver. We will turn on the heater's runes, Legionnaire. She was young, in her late teens, with dirty blonde hair and soft freckles. Pretty in an average way. It had been too long since I had been with a woman. No, this is a teenager. Calm down. My desire rose, and I hid it, guilty about the impropriety of it. What the fuck? Bring me a double breakfast and see if a barber will service me while I soak. While I soak, I said to another young woman. Eric, stop. She nodded. We just prepare and clean the baths in the morning. The mistress should be here shortly. The mistress? I groaned inwardly, expecting a verbal fight with the woman for breaking into the baths in the middle of the night. My skin was pruned, but I promptly fell asleep again as the water heated. I was awoken as 2 of the young women came in carrying trays of food and drink. A much older woman followed, showing signs of grey. Oh. She had a tight and unhappy face. Hopefully, coin would solve whatever blunder I had made. She said, You entered my baths past the curfew, Legionnaire. Care to explain yourself? I inhaled and reluctantly spoke. I was filthy after almost dying a half-dozen times in the last 2 days. I needed a bath and your doors were open. I have paid for my time in the water, and I will pay that again if I leave here happy. He paid 7 silver, mistress, one of the younger women said, trying to help. The mistress softened. She still did not look pleased, but consented to my presence. Very good then. Your barber will be sent for. She hesitated. You will pay him from your own pocket. She left, and I dug into the food and drink. Warm wine, fruit, somewhat stale bread, herb-infused butter, and something that appeared to be fresh hummus. Blech. I ate so fast that I didn't even taste it. Then I realized something. After the man had been caught by the frog while shitting, I had unconsciously held it in the return through the swamp. Don't shit in the water, Eric. I rushed out of the water to the privy, as I urgently needed to make room for the massive quantity of food and wine I had just consumed. A voice echoed outside the privy. Your barber is here. It was one of the young women, who was giggling at the embarrassing noises I was making. Oh my god, Eric, no! Oh, fucking... Oh. What is happening? What is happening? I finished up, and a middle-aged man smiled as he said, My services are yours. Clean shave, haircut, and... I almost added an eyebrow sculpt, but that was a vanity from a different life. The shave was done with a foamy mixture that smelled of sandalwood. He used a straight razor and shaved my neck first. Having another man go across your throat with a blade is a different experience. He probably sensed my unease as he talked about his family. The shave was finished, and he applied a balm. The scent was beeswax and cocoa butter. I asked, What's in this? How do you say this? Aloe? Aloe vera? Aloe? Jojoba oil, shea butter, and honeybee wax dissolved in chamomile extract, he replied as he combed and cut my hair. I relaxed, feeling months of growth being removed. Most Legion companies were clean-shaven and well-groomed when I saw them in the few cities I had been to, but Castile seemed to let us do whatever we pleased. It was like we were the black sheep of the mage legions. I think you are. It's not like you are, it's you are. When he finished, he used a mirror to show me, which I liked. My off-black hair was finger-length and styled. I asked, How much for the shave and your entire kit? He looked confused as he put his tools away in a large leather satchel. You have another set at your business, I assume? I added. Yes, but these are my traveling set, he said worriedly. How much to replace them? I asked, not relenting. Dude, Eric is such a fucking spender. He just throws money everywhere at everyone. He looked in his bag and added up the value. 70 silver. He looked at me. I pulled a gold coin from nowhere and handed it to him. This should be enough then? He still did not look happy at losing his profession tool set. He said, I forgot the perfume. It is worth half a gold on its own, and I only use it on my female clients. Rather than argue, I said, You can keep the perfume. He finally nodded, somewhat happier as he pulled it out and took the gold coin. He walked out in a kind of a daze, like he had lost something precious to him. I feel bad for him. I was alone in the room, and the leather satchel went into my dimensional space. Personal grooming was in my future. I realized I was accepting my new life. I had not realized up until the bath, but the shock and changes had greatly diminished my desires. Yeah, now he only has one type of desires for teenage girls. But then again, I don't know if he had that before. Now they seemed to be returning, but there was still no way I was visiting a brothel. Oh, he was really talking about that. I walked to the open dressing room to find my armor clean and oiled, and a set of new linen clothes folded neatly next to it. They were not as heavy as the canvas ones that were normal Legion wear, but they would work for now. I dressed and found the older woman in charge. I had to exchange a gold coin for silver, since I only had 1 silver left. I gave her 10 silver, 7 as agreed, and 1 silver for each of the 3 young women as promised. After nearly dying, spending what wealth you had was easy. Enjoy it while you can. I think I was developing a soldier's mentality. It was mid-morning when I reached Orchard. I was whistling the Star Wars theme song as I entered the villa. What? I know that that's Darth Vader's, but that was funnier. Like no one was in the entry hall, so maybe they had gone off patrol or wall duty. I had no idea what day it was. I went into the large ballroom where most of the beds were set up and found 5 men resting. One sat up. It was Felix. "What the fuck? Have you come back to frigging haunt us?" "No, I just got a shave and haircut," I said, trying to sound offended. Felix shook his head in disbelief. "They said Dorando's company was decimated, and they returned in the middle of the night. That was like 10 hours ago. Castile, Delmar, and Adrian went to question the survivors. Since you didn't return here, we didn't get a runner. We all thought you were dead." "The reports of my death are greatly exaggerated," I quipped. Firth came out from the kitchen. "You better get your arse to the Legion Hall in the city. Castile is going to rip you a new one for not coming directly to her when you returned." Shit. I dropped my armor, spears, and gear and took off running. You better run. Chapter 35. Tribunal and Judgment. Oh, whose judgment? Mine? As I made my way back to the Legion Hall at a steady run, I planned to tell Castile I had returned late and didn't want to wake her. Or maybe I should just go with the truth and tell her I fell asleep. I had planned to tell Delmar or Adrian when I returned to the villa, but now I was up the creek without a paddle. 2 Legion men stood guard as I entered and slowed to a walk. At least I had built up a significant sweat in the humid morning weather, so it looked like I had rushed here. In the common room, I found everyone. Flavius and the 5 men were seated at the long, dark oak table. Across from them, Adrian and Delmar stood behind Castile, and 2 men I didn't recognize sat with her. One of them was definitely the commander of the other mage company, as he had the same rank symbols as Castile. I slowed and realized I was not even breathing heavily from the sprint of nearly a mile, so I faked some heavy breathing. All eyes were on me, and I guiltily noted all the men I had returned with still more filthy clothes and were caked in mud. I could smell their unwashed bodies from 20 feet away as it filled the room. Mage Castile did not look angry, but she did look amused at my entrance and appearance. It was the man I couldn't place who spoke. "Are you Legionnaire Eric?" "I am." I came to attention. The other mage said, "Since we do not have a truth seeker here, let us confirm their story with him and close the matter. The defensive plans for the city are in turmoil without Durandus and his men. We need to start planning and make a request for another mage from the Legatus Legonis. Lego. Castile didn't seem to care for his words. She studied me. The first man said irritably, "He has repeatedly denied my request for a 4th mage company. I do not think he will send anyone, Gregor." Gregor. The mage, who I assumed was named Gregor, replied, "We must ask. Durandus was the center of our defense planning. Neither I nor Mage Castile can handle the load on the defense." Castile stopped them both with a slap of the table. She focused on me. "Tell us about the Storm Giant attack, Eric, in your own words, and be brief." Her eyes told me she did not have patience today. I relaxed slightly, as it appeared my mage commander was not directing anger at me. "Durandus got us there, and we found the Storm Giant digging. He waited until the giant was resting. Maybe he thought it was out of ether, I don't know. He sent the shield wall supported by the spearmen to attack and distract it while our swordsmen and archers flanked it. The Storm Giant called down lightning and it had no effect. The giant charged the shield men when Durandus tried to encase him in ice. The giant blowed through the spearmen, casting them aside to get Durandus. I think Durandus thought his shield spell would protect him from any attack." I took a moment to remember. It did, but the giant's sword launched a mage 150 feet, his protective ball intact. I don't know when it failed, but he hit the ground and was knocked out. The giant blew apart the archer formation with a lightning bolt, then proceeded to kill all the shield and spearmen. Mage Gregor asked with narrow eyes, "And what were you doing during all this?" "I used some potions on the archers and then rushed to give Durandus some healing potions. It got him up again and he was able to immobilize the giant, and we were eventually victorious. Durandus collected the essence of the giant and it consumed it immediately." I ended the bloody tale quickly. Mage Gregor asked, "And where is the essence collector, Legionnaire?" I was not sure if this was a trap, so I chose my words carefully. "We fought something called a shambling mound on the returning trip. The mage thought he had immobilized the last creature and was going to take its essence. It surprised him and threw him into the swamp with the device. We think he was knocked unconscious and drowned. The next day we all, I indicated the 6 men, spent hours searching for it. During the search we couldn't find a trace of it in the swamp. Gregor seemed agitated. His eyes narrowed. I want his dimensional pocket searched. Mage Castile bristled. He's under my command authority and does not have to submit to a search from you. I want him searched as well, the other man added. What the fuck can they do that? I was confused. Was he a mage too? Gregor had a smug look on his face from this victory. This must be the type of power struggle now that Durandus was dead. The man continued. Castile, you called the mage tribunal. That is 2 votes to 1. I guessed then that he was also a mage, but did not command a legion company. Well, if they could force open my dimensional space, I was in trouble. I had a few £100 of supplies in there, and the collector. Castile looked hard at me. No sympathy, but maybe regret. Eric, empty your space on the table. You bring the wetted sand. She pointed to Legionnaire by the door. Confused, I walked towards the table of tribunal members and put the 4 potion trays on the table. Only 10 of the cure poison remained. I looked at Adrian and Delmar, who had impassive faces but made eye contact with me. Their gazes seemed curious. I decided to add all my coins as well. 3 gold, 91 silver, and 28 copper. A wheelbarrow of wet sand was rolled in. Castile said, Fill your dimensional space with the sand, Eric. This was the test? Thankfully, I had taken the box when I was in the Varveo baths. I moved to the wheelbarrow, outlined the section of sand I wanted, and moved it inside the box in the dimensional space. Castile nodded regretfully. Good. Put the contents of your space on the table again. Everything, and then move back, Castile ordered. A block of wet sand appeared, and it maintained its shape. I moved to stand behind Duranda's men again. A giddy Gregor carefully cut through the sand in slices with a long, thin dagger. After he had finished, the 3rd mage asked, Any voids in the sand? Gregor threw a handful of sand across the table in frustration. Castile seemed shocked nothing was found as well. Did she think I was hiding something? Well, I was hiding a lot of something. Castile relaxed, smirking. Eric does not have the collector then. And Gregor, even if the collector was here, Durandus' brother has a claim to it. I felt a chill. The collector was valuable enough to be wanted by a lot of people. I don't know why I asked, but I did. Why is it so valuable? The 3 mages turned toward me, and Delmar grinned at my idiocy for interrupting and asking. Castile answered without drawing out the drama. It always yields an essence in a dungeon from any creature. Durandus made most of his wealth from it. I played stupid. Should we have spent longer looking? Flavius, who was sitting with his back to me, twitched. Yes, you should have, Gregor barked. Mages are all kind of bitchy. Even though my company was known to lose a fair amount of men, at least Castile seemed reasonable. The questioning of me turned to the fight with the shambling mounds, and I answered 24 questions consistent with what I remembered of the attack and Durandus' death. I even told them about the company dividing up the essences, minus the 3 apex ones. Finally, Castile announced, It is ruled. Durandus died by his own stupidity. Yep. Gregor reluctantly seconded, and the other man confirmed. Castile scribbled out the verdict on a parchment and rolled it up. I assumed it to be an official record of how the mage died. Castile stood. You 6 will be divided among 2 companies. Eric, see Adrian before heading to your quarters. Castile walked out. The other 2 mages went their separate ways as well. Delmar scooped up my coin. He grinned as he and Adrian approached. Damn, Eric. We sent word to the villa that you were dead. We didn't know until the trial started that you still lived. He clapped me on the back. Yeah, I stopped at the baths and fell asleep in the water, I said, and Delmar just shook his head in disbelief. There is 45 silver in your room at the villa from the snake hide. You may have to kick someone out of the room when you get back. After all, they thought you were dead. He chuckled. I actually was up there, and they told me to come down here, I admitted. Well, since you're all prettied up, I'm assuming you plan to go making a dalliance or 2. Well, Delmar handed me my coin slowly. But you did not pack my spinnerets out of the mountains. He took 1 gold coin from my stash, smiling as he did so and leaving me with Adrian. Damn, I was hoping I'd forgotten about that. He paid me a 1 gold coin to pack his monster parts out of the mountains, but I had been tasked to carry the first citizen's gear instead. Adrian said, Castile wanted me to ask you about the remaining men from Duranda's company. Any good legionnaires among them? I nodded, thinking. Flavius. He was one of the archers, but also a trained scout. He was the only one who knew about the shambling mounds. After Durandus attacked it, he told him that lightning healed them. Brutus is the only other one I talked to at any length. He is a good fighter and has some smarts. That's cute. When the mounds attacked one side of the camp, he remained on watch on the other side, and a third one did show itself, so he prevented us from being attacked from behind. I watched the men mill about in the Legion common room, awaiting their fate. They were not too welcoming to outsiders. The 6 men that we left on the road with our gear, I did not talk with any of them. Adrian heaved a breath. Durandus' company was made of volunteers, not conscripts. They chose the life in the Legion. They trained at the Legion camp just outside of the capital. When they complete their training and are assigned a major duty, all the missions would be within the confines of the Empire, not on the borders. He considered my words for a moment longer. So, just the 2? No others? I nodded. He turned and left to talk to the filthy men. I was like, 50? He yelled to me as I was almost at the door. Be careful when you spend your coin, Eric. According to Firth, there's an epidemic of crotch crickets in the city. Oh no! Crotch crickets? I didn't ask for clarification. Please don't. I was exhausted and needed some sleep. I made my way to the villa and found my gear where I had dropped it. In my tiny room, I found the 55 silver on the desk, and my things looked to be in the exact same place as I left them. I locked the door, barred the window, pulled my griffin feather pillow out of my storage, and collapsed on my bed. I was asleep in seconds. Oh, we made it back to the maid room. Woo! With an essence collector all of a sudden. And richer. Or are we? Because we paid a lot of the fucking baths. And he also got the barber tools as well. Well, he paid for those, but that's something new that we have. Very good. I wonder when he will use the essence collector, like, or if he will tell someone about it. Probably not, though. I feel like now it's too deep. Like, he can't mention it. It's like, hey. So you will have to use it when no one watches. Well, I also assume that we will do more dungeons in the future, so I guess he will use it then, since it's a guarantee then. Which is pretty cool. We will see if he uses the essence collector next time.